A school board turns on itself over imaginary ideas about what's being taught in schools. The Washington Post finds wealthy Catholic conservatives in Colorado spent millions of dollars hunting for gay priests to turn them into the church. One of the few people who can tell Xcel Energy what to do suggested Xcel might pick up some of the cost of our rising bills. A candidate for Denver mayor offers a very honest answer.
So you said city's got to have this affordable housing, but not in your neighborhood.
No.
And we'll listen to a group determined that the sound of 5 points should never die. Tonight on Next.
School boards in Colorado are the next target for Republicans who acknowledge they can't win much of anything else here. It's playing out in an odd way on a school board on the outskirts of the metro area. In Elizabeth, Republicans are accusing each other of secretly supporting critical race theory, which is not actually taught in Elizabeth schools. Our Steve Steger explains why 3 members of the school board, the majority, are quitting rather than having to deal with this anymore.
CRT, a drag queen fundraiser.
It's been a slow and steady drumbeat at Elizabeth school board meetings for weeks.
We've been awakened. I have seen assignments given in classrooms in Elizabeth School District which were pushing racial division.
Deep in the heart of conservative Colorado,
the whole woke agenda is coming fast to this community.
Right-wing conspiracy theories about curriculum are flooding public comment sessions.
It is coming.
School leaders here insist it isn't coming.
But the work we are doing is being hampered by claims of CRT and LGBTQ agendas in our schools. This has to stop.
That's the principal of Elizabeth High School, Brett McClendon, at a meeting last month, aiming his frustration at 2 school board members he accuses of spreading rumors.
Director Olson and Director Booth, please stop chasing ghosts. We are not teaching critical race theory at Elizabeth High School.
Director Rhonda Olson insists she isn't driving the claims.
You have never heard me say that we have critical race theory in our high school or any of our schools.
She and Director Heather Booth say they're just sounding alarms.
We need to put safeguards in place to make sure it doesn't come here.
But it's put their board colleagues in an awkward position.
I am a conservative.
That's the board president, Carrie Karsher.
I'm upset about it too. I don't want it to come into the district. But I don't want this conversation to happen week after week after week.
He submitted a resignation letter this week, along with his vice president, Kim Frumveller. She wrote her days are consumed with constant issues and lies, and the lies never seem to stop. Treasurer Craig Blackham says his daily personal attacks and emails start at 6 a.m. They're taking a toll on him. All 3 will make their resignation official on Monday.
So what happens now? Big question. A district spokesman says it's unclear if there will be enough of a quorum to actually get things done. It also isn't clear how new board members will be selected during this. Plus, one of the 2 remaining members, Heather Booth, is now facing a potential recall. With signatures gathered, they should be submitted by the end of April.
So I think, Steve, we tend to think about these disputes playing out in, I guess, for lack of a better word, like purple communities, where there's people of all kinds of different political beliefs serving in elected office. But now you see with these parents' rights groups and conservative media stoking fears of these things, you got people turning on each other who basically agree on politics.
What's astonishing to watch is the folks on the board who are resigning saying, I'm worried about this too, but it's not happening here. So let's move on and talk about something else. And then they just get constant flow of people saying, no, it must be happening or it's going to creep in. And they say that's just too much. They can't deal with it anymore. It's just a constant thing that they're dealing with off the clock.
It's wild. It's wild. The purge has begun. Steve, thank you. The Democrats who control just about everything at the state capitol are not wasting time moving from one contentious issue to another with basically nothing in their way. So while their gun control is being debated, Democrats have introduced abortion legislation. One bill would provide legal protections for medical providers who offer abortions and for patients who cross state lines for the procedure. It would also prevent Colorado from participating in abortion-related investigations started by other states or insurance providers. That formalizes an executive order from the governor last year. Second bill would increase insurance coverage for reproductive health care, including abortions. Last one cracks down on so-called crisis pregnancy centers. If the legislation passes, it'll likely be along party lines. House Republicans have already come out against these proposals and called them extreme. A group of wealthy Catholic conservatives in Colorado has been hunting for gay clergy members so that they can out them to church leaders. Washington Post broke this story about the group that has spent millions of dollars to purchase data from dating apps in their search for closeted clergy. The organization, called Catholic Laity in Clergy for Renewal, is defending this data tracking as a quote-unquote service to the church. In a blog post yesterday, the group's president acknowledged buying publicly available data from hookup apps and providing bishops with lists of clergy using the apps. The group disputes the Washington Post claim that the focus was exclusively on gay priests. They say they were trying to track down any priests using the hookup apps. The Post reports that one of the wealthy philanthropists behind this group is Tim Reichert, who lost a Republican primary in the 7th Congressional District last year. The Catholic Foundation of Northern Colorado, which works with the Archdiocese of Denver to manage donations, has given the group that's hunting gay clergy at least $400,000, according to tax documents. The Archdiocese declined to comment today. Have I ever told you that I like the way you think? Here's what I mean by that. So our Marshall Zellinger has been investigating the pants off Xcel Energy because of your high bills. And one thing we've talked about are the state regulators who oversee Xcel. There are 3 commissioners. And now you've been asking, well, who oversees them? That's a good question. Marshall's got you covered.
We had reduced our consumption by 30%. And my rate went up 70.
Ken Bugosh is one of the viewers who emailed us skeptical about the Public Utilities Commission.
Ultimate question was whether the members of the Colorado Public Utilities Commission own any stock in Xcel Energy.
State law does not allow that. Commissioners must also refrain from holding any stocks or bonds of any corporation subject to PUC regulation. Commissioners must also file these personal financial disclosure forms every year. These show basics about how and where they invest. Some of the disclosures include the specific funds. None specifically showed stock in Xcel, which would not be legal.
I'm just frustrated that we still don't have any meaningful alignment between customer and utility incentives.
Just like customers, Chairman Eric Blank showed his anger over high utility bills.
I don't know that this process is on track to result in any better outcome.
Blank has repeatedly said he wants to create a system where if utility companies like Xcel have to buy expensive gas in the moment, that the company shares some of that cost. He floated an idea of having the company cover 5% of the cost instead of passing 100% on to customers. These lines, called natural gas, are the part of your bill that adjusts several times a year based on the actual price of gas. After going up in January, Xcel reduced it twice so far because it paid less for gas than expected. This line on your gas bill is paying Xcel back for the hundreds of millions of dollars worth of really expensive natural gas it had to buy in the middle of February 2021. This charge will not go away until after January 2025.
When customers win, the utilities win, and when customers lose, the utilities lose. And it can be small, but I don't think it should continue to be zero.
In that decision to pay Xcel back for the really expensive natural gas, the PUC did subtract $8 million in a penalty out of $500 million. Blank's idea to not pass on every dollar to a customer has gone nowhere still. That discussion was tabled, and it will get brought back up again at a meeting in 2 weeks.
So when we talk about like the regulators of the PUC, it's not just like 3 people sitting in a room alone.
Right. We've interviewed the chief economist, and there's a bunch of people who make recommendations that they ultimately decide. And I found out that the staff of the PUC have to sign conflict of interest forms that say we have no conflict of interest in the decisions we're making or the recommendations we're making.
It's a great question by viewers. Thanks for getting the answer. Denver's plan to add a dedicated fast bus lane out East Colfax, BRT, Bus Rapid Transit, it's going to need federal tax dollars to happen. And today, the Biden administration says it's on board, so to speak. The BRT line would run from Union Station out to Colfax and Yosemite on the Aurora line. The U.S. Department of Transportation announced today that it is recommending $126 million in federal funding for that project. The city estimates it'll take somewhere between $250 to $300 million to complete the project. They think they can get the rest of that from grants and the voter-approved Elevate Denver bond. So the plan to rename Mount Evans was this close when it hit a hurdle today. The final vote to rename it Mount Blue Sky was postponed this morning because a tribe requested a slowdown. State Advisory Board and Democratic Governor Jared Polis are both on board with the name Mount Blue Sky, which was submitted by the Southern Cheyenne and Arapaho tribes. Governor needs to sign off, as does this board. The 14er is currently named after Governor John Evans, who did a lot of things in the state, but he did sanction the Sand Creek Massacre. The U.S. Board of Geographic Names has the final say to approve the name change. They say a tribe, which they're not identifying, has requested a consultation. That pauses the process. They have not yet set a new date for the final vote.
Denver mayoral candidate Aurelio Martinez says the city needs affordable housing, just not too close to his housing.
Do you want those homes built in Curtis Park?
No.
I mean, you got to give him points for honesty. Next.
Our next conversation tonight is with a long shot candidate for Denver mayor. Aurelio Martinez says he is not against affordable housing, he just doesn't want it in his neighborhood. That's where we began our discussion. You got into this race because you wanted Denver's neighborhoods to have more say in the development process. Are you a NIMBY guy? Are you a not in my backyard kind of guy?
No. Actually, I'm proud of my neighborhood. Back in the 80s, I ran the neighborhood organization. I was president, and it was called the Curtis Park Block Council back then. So I'm very familiar with the troubles and the problems that neighborhood organizations and residents have working with the city. It's always like pulling teeth.
Does Denver need more housing? Do we need more people here?
You know, we need housing, but it has to be the right housing. I mean, if you take a look at all the development that's going on, a lot of it's luxury apartments, and a lot of them are empty. But yet you still hear that we need more housing. The truth of the matter is we need more housing for the medium income people.
Do you want those homes built in Curtis Park?
No, not. That's why we have zoning, and that's been a big issue with neighborhoods that they have with development coming in. They come close to the neighborhood because the land value is lower and their profit margin goes higher.
So you said city's got to have this affordable housing, but not in your neighborhood.
No, because it's zoned residential, and it's zoned for the neighborhood, and the neighborhood has a neighborhood plan.
Zoned single family.
Single family units.
Yeah,
okay.
Most of the city is zoned single family.
Yeah, but there are business zoned land where they can put these high-rise developments.
In my full 15-minute conversation with Aurelio Martinez, we discussed the fact that he says that Denverites have a right to park in front of their homes and that he wants to see our neighborhoods preserved as they sit today. Our full interviews with the mayoral candidates are on the next YouTube channel and on 9news.com. Martinez did not qualify for our second mayoral debate, which is happening next Tuesday, March 14th. 2 hours live and commercial-free, 7 p.m. on KTVD and streaming on 9 News Plus. So 9 News commissioned a Survey USA poll of likely Denver voters with our partners at Colorado Politics, Denver Gazette, and MSU Denver. And these are the 11 candidates polling between 2 and 5%. They have been invited to debate and make their case to the majority of Denver voters who are still undecided.
Dramatic music, I dig it. Hey, you know what? We're looking at our first 6 p.m. sunset of the year. Isn't this nice? It's staying light a little later. And wow, the views across the foothills in the distance, just stunning. Today also, typically our first average 70-degree day here in Denver. Believe it or not, we have not had a 70-degree day, and certainly today was warmer than it has been, but not quite that toasty. We were in the low to mid 50s here for the urban corridor, mild off to the eastern plains with some 30s and 40s up into the high country. We have a brief break before we usher in, once again, another storm system. It is rocking, it is rolling out across the west coast. Man, California is getting hammered. More heavy rain, the possibility of flash flooding, and they once again are going to be measuring that snowfall across the Sierra Nevada range in feet. That will be migrating into Colorado by tomorrow. Here we are at 7 a.m. We're just seeing the first signs of that system roll through. It will intensify and expand in coverage as the afternoon and evening wear on. Are you heading up to the mountains tomorrow? Can you get out of town by noon, be up there by 2, 3 o'clock? Because then we're just going to be socked in. You'll notice eastern Colorado, not in the cards for us. We should stay dry tomorrow. But wow, the advisories, the warnings, they're out there. 1 to 2 feet possible of fresh snowfall around our central mountains. With the warm, downsloping winds, we'll see another day in the 50s and low 60s here around the metro area. Possibly some rain and snow Saturday and Sunday, but the 60s, they're back by the middle of next week.
A jazz band says 5 points has a sound, a distinct sound. You'll hear it next.
For 30 years, a group of musicians have been trying to preserve the sound and the history of 5 Points. Music and stories they share with the hope that that'll keep the influence of black artists from disappearing.
This group here is devoted to the preservation of the sounds of 5 Points that I heard 70 years ago as a child.
My name is Pernell Steen, and I founded and direct the jazz band known as the 5 Points Ambassadors. The music of 5 Points did have its own sound.
This is waltz with an attitude.
The true history of 5 Points jazz is right at 1 century old, early 20s. The legendary figure George Morrison, who was an African-American violinist, took his 22-piece jazz band to London 100 years ago this year. My memory is that it was wonderful music. It was exciting. It was fun.
You like Duke Ellington?
You know, here we were in Denver, Colorado, looking at some of these legendary figures, and I'm saying, wow, they came to Denver, you know? We were like little kids standing outside of a toy store.
Something in your eyes I see.
Many of the black musicians who drove could not get public accommodations. When they got to Denver, they found this wonderful, self-contained neighborhood called 5 Points. People were thirsting and hungering for jazz. So we want to keep the true history of 5 Points alive. I love 5 Points. I love Denver. And I want to ensure that the historic African-American footprint here in Denver, Colorado does not get erased.
Thank you, Rock.
We're back with your feedback next. Scott writes in with very fair feedback. As somebody who doesn't live or vote in Denver, I can't wait for the mayoral interviews to be over. He says, I want next back. It's been hijacked. I hear you, Scott. I would say this. Can you name your mayor in Centennial? I think it's Stephanie Pico. I'm not entirely sure. My guess is a lot of folks in Centennial can't, but you can name the mayor of Denver. And the reason why is because that person has enormous influence over not just the city, but the state. And that's why we're spending so much time on these interviews. Charles says, beyond thankful for the team for their thorough preparation for the interviews, regardless of somebody's political affiliation, you ask objective, direct, and practical questions. That is, in fact, our goal, Charles. I appreciate that. Keith says, as a Boulder deputy sheriff at 60 years old, part of my qualification with a taser, I took a hit. As a reporter, you should try it. Then you'd have more credibility. Keith, I don't talk about tasers around here, so I'm not sure what me getting hit with a taser would do other than amuse you.